Awesome. Well, I am beyond excited to have Lynnette Khalfani-Cox with me as my guest today. And as you all know, I don't like to speak for other people, so I actually want Lynnette to speak for herself. And so, Lynnette, my first question to you, besides just thanking you for being here, is when people ask you, what is it that you do? How do you answer that?
Well, I tell people that I'm a money coach and a financial educator, and I own a financial literacy consulting company. Have done so for 21 years. I can't believe it's been 21 years, but it has been. Don't let the youthful appearance, distract you or
Yes.
make you think otherwise.
Yeah.
But I really love what I do. Essentially, I teach people about money, everything about personal finances. So, how to get out of debt, how to save, how to plan for retirement, how to get a
Right.
higher paying job, and how to navigate life's financial challenges as well.
Wow. I mean, that's power right there. And my curiosity is always about how did you get into this? The Genesis story, right? What planted that seed, that idea? So give us the origin story, if you will.
Well, if I'm honest, David, I guess I would have to say part of it is because I was a hot mess financially in my own life.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I certainly never intended to become a money coach, to talk to other people about their personal finances. It was not even remotely in the cards.
Hmm.
Um, I went to undergrad at University of California, Irvine, and got a bachelor's degree in English. And then I went on to USC in Los Angeles and got a master's degree in journalism. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. I love this. And indeed, I did practice journalism for many years. Associated Press, I moved to Philadelphia, Philadelphia Inquirer, Fox at 10 o'clock news as a writer, an assistant producer. But then, fortuitously, I had some friends at the Philadelphia Inquirer who said, let's go up to New York and let's go to a Newsday job conference. And I was like, New York, we live in Philly, like what, 2 states away.
Yeah.
And again, having been from Southern California, the thought of like literally traveling 2 states away just to go to work was totally foreign to me. And they were like, "No, we all travel. We hop on the Amtrak and we just take the Northeast Corridor train there, and it's not a problem." And so I followed along and tagged along with them. Went to this Newsday job conference and met some folks from Dow Jones, which was the parent company of the Wall Street Journal and Dow Jones Newswires, etc. Well, long story short, I wound up getting a job with Dow Jones and covering their most high profile beat. I wound up covering Wall Street. And I had a fabulous editor, Rick Stein, who really just, saw a lot in me. He liked my clips, he liked my storytelling and writing and sourcing abilities, and he nurtured me and fostered a lot of the growth that I experienced on just as a young journalist and learning financial journalism and learning about the financial world. Because when he hired me, we went around and around with negotiations over pay, and it was a long kind of drawn out process. Um, and they finally made an offer that I deemed to be, very satisfactory. And I said, "There's just one little thing, Rick. You do realize I don't exactly know a stock from a bond. Like I don't know anything about Wall Street and
Right.
in the stock
Wow.
market." And he was like, "Don't worry about that. He goes, you can learn all of that." He said, "I can't teach, energy and passion and enthusiasm. I can't teach good
Mhm.
storytelling. I can't teach sourcing and the writing skills that you've displayed. The money part of it, you'll learn that part." And
Yeah.
he was so right. And so I'm so glad I was there for a decade, and it was a phenomenal run. I went through a lot of different iterations with Dow Jones. I became a deputy managing editor. I was a bureau chief. And my last job was as a Wall Street Journal reporter for CNBC. So I was on air doing TV all the time. And then I went through a downsizing. And then that's what actually led me to starting my own business in 2003. So I was downsized in my last day on air as a full-time reporter. I've been back to CNBC many, many times now as an expert. But my last day on air was March 1st, 2003. And that same month, I started my company, and I've never looked back.
Amazing. And obviously you're natural, right? I mean, you can tell the energy just oozes off of the Zoom square, the rectangle. So let's talk a little bit about those first few months, weeks, days, years. Tell me a little bit about, starting your own business, high energy, right? Like exciting, but for some people terrifying. Tell me a
Very
little bit
much.
about your mindset there and your initial few months or weeks.
Well, it was very much in a scary kind of place because honestly, um, I did it from a position where I was in a bad marriage. Number one, I was kind of like, it was like the tail end of my first marriage. I was in debt. I had been digging myself out of debt at the time. I had a very healthy, six-figure 401k. But because I was the sole breadwinner in my family, my ex-husband had been earning his PhD from Penn, and he did not work. So my funds, running out in terms of the income source was a big shock to our, household financially. We had two young kids. And again, because I wanted to start the business, what I ended up doing was tapping my 401k, using that money to, help stay afloat and using that money to launch the business. Now, I ran through that 401k like nobody's business, and I do not recommend that,
Yeah,
obviously, to others.
yeah.
Note to anybody listening out there. But it was a growth period, and I absolutely learned a lot. I learned about risk taking. I learned about the prudent use of your capital, because I do think that I, even as an entrepreneur, spent unwisely in some areas.
Yeah.
I decided to self-publish my first book, which was called Investing Success. I got Charles Schwab to write the foreword to the book, and I had a book offer from Wiley, from John Wiley and Sons, but I wound up turning them down at the time because again, I lost my job at CNBC, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to promote the book in the same way on air all the time. And so I just thought it was just honest to tell them, where I was, and that I chose to take a different path and to self-publish. They totally respected it. They understood. And a marketing manager there told me, listen, I know you know about Wall Street and the stock market and financial stuff, but you don't know anything about publishing books, So let me make a recommendation. You need to meet this guy, Earl Cox. He used to work for us for 10 years. And he has his own consulting firm now. He helps authors and takes them to the next level. Maybe you should, kind of meet with him. He's here at Book Expo, and that's where I met her at Book Expo when I was telling Wiley no. And so I ended up meeting Earl, not at the conference, but on the red eye after landing in Newark, New Jersey. And little did I know that this man would become my future husband. So it was
So that corridor, that northeastern corridor, going to New York and then Newark,
hey,
lots of power, lots of
there you
vortex
go.
of
It,
energy
it
for you.
worked out at so many levels. So it's just kind of a full circle thing because, again, 20 plus years ago, I met Earl. Again, he used to work for Wiley. He had been there for a decade, and he had struck out on his own in 2002, the year before I met him in 2003. And we later married in 2007, but I hired him as a consultant. We started working together. And then, work turned into love. And like I said, we got married and everything. But it's just kind of amazing because that same company, Wiley, who he used to work for and who I had my first book offer for, but I turned down. And then I ended up meeting him through Wiley, a Wiley marketing manager, Michelle Patterson. Now, 20 years later, they published our latest book. So my latest book is called Bounce Back, The Ultimate Guide to Financial Resilience. Thank you. And it's all about how do you navigate life setbacks like downsizing, divorce, Death of a Loved One, and more. And Earl agented that book and sold that book to Wiley for me. So it's really kind of a full circle moment. We're like, wow, I always say, God wastes nothing. Like there's all this stuff that happens in your life, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going through this, and you're like, why me? At the time, because certainly when I was downsized, I was like, why me?
Yeah.
And I never dreamed that it would lead to a fabulous career as an entrepreneur, lead to my husband, lead to a sense of freedom, frankly, that I had not had when I worked for someone else.
Well, it was well, thank you for sharing all that. And it was a privilege to be, to be included in one of these chapters of this book. I love that it's a big book, but it's a light book. There's aspiration there, there's hope, there's also a dose of reality, like a reality check. It's got everything in there. Um, for listeners, I mean, I encourage them to buy the book and read it front cover to back cover. But if you had to kind of maybe distill a couple of points, like, what should someone do if they have been downsized, right? Because we hear about that all the time in recent years. What should people do? What should people be thinking about? What should people doing or avoiding doing post layoff?
Well, first, I want to say I think you're being incredibly modest here, because the advice you gave me in that chapter on downsizing was absolutely crucial to my understanding of how to help people to navigate this area, because it's a
Mhm.
huge challenge. It's an emotional blow, it's a financial blow, it's a career blow, it's an identity blow. There's all the things kind of mixed
Yeah.
in there. And so, in terms of the what should they do, you have to take a beat. You have to really assess, emotionally, because I think all too often the tendency is to want to just leap back in and, well, let me find another job. Let me replace my salary. Let me,
Mm,
kind of hustle and go into, well, you might not be at your best self, and you shared that with me that, even as you go through the interview process, you have to really think about, like, are you performing at your highest and best self, kind of operating in your genius zone. And you probably aren't if you haven't, taken a minute to really reflect and to really assess, what do I want out of a position? What did I really like out of my last job? And what didn't I like, honestly? And to think about the ways in which you provide unique value, the ways in which you have a skill set or a contribution to make to an employer that could help you to stand apart. But beyond all of that, in your own self reflection, et cetera, the idea about connection, I think, is super important. And it's not just for folks who have gone through job loss, really for any of what I call the dreaded D's in bounce back. Again, whether that's downsizing, divorce, death of a loved one, disability, disease, dealing with a natural disaster, debt, damaged credit, dollar deficits where you don't have enough cash flow, or discrimination.
mhm.
Having the right people in your corner makes all the difference. And so, I think that for those who are looking to re-enter the job force, there can be a whole bunch of things that hold people back. Sometimes, as you highlighted, there can be embarrassment, shame. People might not want to, talk to others about the fact that they are in need of a job, or that they have been downsized, that kind of thing. And there really shouldn't be any shame in your game, right? You have to tap into your network and your circle broadly to be able to bounce back and recover when you're looking for that right fit, that job that is going to kind of, make all the bells and whistles, kind of ring for you. And so the connection part is, I think, super, super valuable, and it's a part of fostering resilience as well. The people in your circle really, really will help you to recover.
You mentioned story earlier, and this just, as you're talking, connection is about story. It's about sharing your story with other people. It's about hearing other people's stories and learning from that. It's all about story. It's just like an exchange of energy, an exchange of story, story, story. You are, in my humble opinion, a masterful storyteller. You share your story in the book, on LinkedIn, elsewhere. You inspire others. You've inspired me. I'm curious, what are you most proud of? And a two-parter. They tell me not to ask two-parter questions, so I'll try to
I
say,
don't,
what are you most proud of? The second one is, who inspires you? So what are you most proud of, and who inspires you?
well, if I had to say beyond a shadow of a doubt, what I'm most proud of is that I've been able to keep my family together and to raise three incredibly talented, loving, just good-hearted humans who are now kind of all, going out in the world and making their own way. So I shared with you that I had a divorce that I went through. I was previously married for 13 years. When I remarried, my older two children were about 6 and 4 years old. They're now 26 and 24 years old. And so, Earl, my husband, really, helped raise them from when they were kids on. And our oldest daughter, her name is Aziza. She graduated from the University of Texas at Austin, doing phenomenal for herself. Um, she was in the Macomb School of Business, a Jefferson Scholar, graduating in 3.5 years, just, happily married to her husband, who's an engineer, and also she met at UT. And when I look at their life and the track and the trajectory that they're on together, they're, what we call dinks, dual income, no kids.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, they're like borderline Gen Z / millennial, because
Yeah.
Jacob, her husband, is 27, she's 26, and they are living their best lives. We bought Aziza her first house, a condo in Austin. We buy our kids their first homes to get them started. But after they got married, they lived in that condo for a minute, and then they moved on and got a bigger house. They were like, we want to get our own house, a bigger house. And so they're in Austin. They're doing great together. And I'm sharing that story, though, because when I say that they're living their best lives, my daughter has gone through, several career positions of increasing a responsibility and, frankly, great pay. Um, they're both like, 6-figure wage earners kind of thing at that, level of being 20 something years old is great. But they travel. I mean, it was Turkey, Greece, Italy, Peru. They're just like they live a great life. They're active in their church, and so I'm super happy about that. My son, he graduated. He's 24. He graduated from North Carolina State University School of Design. He got a degree in industrial design, and he's in New Jersey right now doing a lot of creative stuff and just making his own way. And then Earl and our daughter Alexis, the 18-year-old, she has literally just made her college decision. I can't say what it is just yet, because we haven't even officially accepted on the dotted line, but we're so thrilled. And I will be announcing it very soon. And it's just the perfect fit for her. And it's a place where I know she's going to make a lot of impact. And so, I look back, I'm like, I have three healthy, happy, sane, normal kids who are just like each, Earl and I are like, we did it. We're about to become empty nesters. We're like, we're going to lose our minds. We're not going to know what to do with ourselves, So that, I know that was a long-winded way of saying it, but I really am like, I got it right the second time around. Again, my first marriage, it failed. It did not last. And I walked down the aisle thinking that this is going to be forever, and it wasn't. But this one, my current marriage, I absolutely know we will go to our graves together, And so I'm happy because honestly, all the other stuff, I have the wealth that I want. I have the assets that I want. I have the property that I want. I have, the things and all of that. Okay, fine and good. But if you don't have your happiness and your relationships, and if you don't have good health, which is what I also have, it's like, what is it all for? So that's what I'm most proud of, that I have this really rich life that is defined not by the amount of dollars in my bank account, but by the happiness in my family and the relationships and the connections that I have. So that's that. In terms of who inspires me, I'm going to give a shout out to Sandra Davis, who is a very close friend of mine and a mentor, and just a master coach, a giant in the field of personal financial coaching. She runs Sage Financial Solutions in based in California, and she's just taught me so much over the years, and helped me to become a better coach, and advocate. Helped me in my family life in so many ways. So that's why I'll give my kudos and shout out, and who I'll really highlight in terms of who inspires me.
You gave such a rich and robust answer, and again, because you're such a great storyteller, I expected nothing less. So I had high expectations and high hopes, and I'm glad they were all met and exceeded. Um, as we kind of wind down here, short and sweet, and I really do hope people buy this book, Bounce Back, because it is fantastic. And like I said, it is all of it, all the feels in this book, the practical, the feels, the spiritual, everything in between. I think it will resonate with a lot of folks. But how else can people learn about you, follow you, and kind of absorb all of your awesome energy and insights?
Thank you. I'm on every social media platform. So Facebook, Twitter/X, LinkedIn, Instagram. I have a YouTube channel, and we should post a little bit more on there. But I do have a YouTube channel. Everything is under my full name, Lynnette Khalfani-Cox, or at The Money Coach. And again, everybody calls me The Money Coach. So
So good.
yeah,
So
that's
good.
where they can connect with me. I have my own, of course, website as well, which is LynetteKhalfani-Cox.com, and I have a free financial advice site called askthemoneycoach.com as well.
Appreciate all you are and all you do for the community, and by that I mean the world, right? Because with social media you can impact so many people, not just the person down the street, but everyone around the world. Thank you again for your energy, your stories, and for being on my radar. I mean, it is just such a pleasure to learn from you through osmosis. I look forward to staying in touch. Take
Thank
good
you.
care.
Appreciate it. All righty.
Bye bye.